Hello, a warm welcome back to the studio with us. Today we will be looking at the subject of where to invest your energy. This is one of many discussions that Sister Denise and I are having in the series entitled The Law of Karma, Destiny and Choice. Hello and welcome back.
Hello, thank you.
As one embarks on life's journey, there are various options open to us in terms of how we can interact with others, how to relate to the self, how to respond to matter, etc. And somebody who is interested in practicing soul consciousness and or spirituality, how does one know where to go and where to invest your energy?
When you're thinking about the laws of karma, it's quite good to know that they operate rather similarly to the laws of economics. Everything you do, if you're in business, is about profit. And in business, they talk about the bottom line, but they also talk about the triple bottom line, which is actually quite relevant when we're thinking about going into profit at every level. There's the single bottom line, which is how much money can I make, but the triple bottom line is how can I make maximum amount of profit for myself in terms of monetary gain. How can I also create benefit to the people who are involved in the business, whether it's customers or employees or whatever. And then thirdly, the impact on the environment. And we need to take that into consideration in order to have overall benefit for us, those around us, and the environment. Now, where to invest your energy, the thing that you're investing in is really yourself.
That is very deep. Not many people know that. Yeah. So where you invest your energy means where you're investing yourself, or what?
Everything you do needs to be an investment in yourself. Normally what happens in the conventional patriarchal world is men are taught to invest in themselves and their family and their descendants and all that, and women are taught to invest in the men. But actually, now that we are genderless, colorless, classless, religionless souls, then you invest in the self just like everybody else. And so all the karma that you do is all about advancing yourself in every possible way. And when you advance yourself, this is a law, a spiritual law, that when you move yourself forward, you move everybody else forward. And this is also part of the meaning of enlightened self-interest. So you invest in your mind, in your intellect, in your character, you create fortune in terms of you are doing pure karma, benefiting people in many different ways. So you're advancing yourself while advancing everybody else. And when you're looking at economics just in the manner of taking advantage for yourself, regardless of anything else, you're actually putting yourself in loss, temporary benefit but ultimate loss. Whereas this way, you're gaining tremendously yourself, and you're also causing everyone else to move forward. So this is the best possible investment you can do. And there's basically no risk, because you're not going anywhere. You're here with yourself forever. And anything you do, your karma, that's also with you forever. There may be obstacles, but whatever you do to handle those obstacles is anyway going to enrich you and strengthen you. So it is a really no-risk, win-win situation.
We live in a world where it has become the norm for millions to not invest in themselves, but to sabotage themselves. We see this in behavioral patterns every day. amongst loved ones and amongst colleagues and the world in general. People literally take a gun and shoot themselves in the foot, as it were. Why is that so deep, and is it reversible?
I think it's definitely reversible. I think one of the reasons is it's a kind of karmic return that maybe in some other incarnation you have damaged other people, and the return of that is either they damage you or you damage yourself. So it could be that. But one of the problems that people have is low self-esteem, and part of the problem is the messages people receive from the prevailing social attitudes which reflect the moral views of the society, which say that you need to put people down, otherwise they'll get selfish. You need to not spoil people, in other words, harm them. Completely weird parenting practices, very punitive moral laws. Morality is always enforced with violence, and so people internalize that and they do to themselves what the external moral authorities do to them, whether it's parents or teachers or religious leaders. They get into feeling guilt and shame, and I don't deserve, and I'm not worthy, and all of these phrases that people learn at their mother's knee, they are toxic, and they can be reversed by simply informing people that they took in quite damaging information, and they just need to take it out and rethink what it means to be a person. So that's an educational process.
History is full of examples of individuals who chose either a religious life or a worldly life. Now, what you have been saying throughout this series is that one practices one's spiritual life whilst living amongst others. So, is it an either or not?
No, it has to be both and in fact there's a huge section of people who try to live in the world in a way that is very good, good character, upright, moral conduct and so on, but they may be traumatized by something which messes up their ways, and they also may be tempted and corrupted by the world. So even though they have good intention, they may not have the power to fulfill that. But here you're systematically accumulating power, spiritual power. You're not dependent on anything that is unreliable. People, places and things are ultimately unreliable. They will ultimately fail you. But your pure karma and your relationship with God is infallible, and that is useful to know because you can rely on that. Then you're coming more and more into your power. You're in the world, you're functioning, and it's really nothing to do with either if you're in the world you're full of vices, and if you're on the mountaintop you don't have any vices. It doesn't work like that. There's plenty of vices on the mountaintop.
Oh, so it's not the place, it's the attitude?
It's the headset. It's also, do you know how to be in your power? Because if you're in your power, you can follow the voice of conscience. You know, to follow the voice of conscience, you got to have power. Because why good people do bad things is because they're weak, not because they're bad. So if you don't have power, you will do bad things.
We are faced with a buffet every day, a buffet of situations and people and things, and it's the whole wide world out there. I now wish to make choices that, as you say, invest in the self. how does one know at each juncture which choice I'm making is right or wrong? Do I check with somebody or something? What is the yardstick by which I measure whether I'm on the right track or not?
One aspect of the yardstick is your study, because you're studying spiritual knowledge, you're studying the laws of karma. You know that if you do this, there's this result, this motivation has this effect. Basically, if it is for the love of God and for the love of humanity, that will be good. And does this carry me forward so that I become a person of integrity, a person who's in their own power, who has a clean, clear conscience? You know, that's your yardstick. When you don't do that kind of action, why is it? You go against your conscience because you're weak. You come under somebody else's influence because you're weak. This personal weakness is the only answer for all of the negative karmas. You have to strengthen yourself, and that means you have to meditate. And you have to be in connection with God. And the more you're in connection with the Supreme Being, the sharper your understanding becomes, and the more clear everything is to you. So doing the right thing is like breathing. You just do it naturally.
A obvious question that comes up under this discussion is in whom to invest one's energy. How does one's relationships shift when you're spiritually aware?
You know, there are these words, dependent relationships, codependent relationships, this kind of thing, which are unhealthy. So when you engage in interaction with another person, the yardstick for that is mutual benefit. And it has to be an equitable give and take. It's not you give and they take in all cases. No, you give, they give back, you give, they give back. They give, you give back. Keep it on a level. And when it goes out of balance, a mechanism kicks in which prevents you from adding to that imbalance. And when something is demanded of you that would take the balance even further away from the equilibrium, there you just say no. You know, can you just? No, you look after your own self. You know, you're in fraternal relationship, love, regard is the key. When the relationship is a different relationship, a family relationship or whatever, there are some obligations involved in those relationships. And so you need to just understand the social requirements and fulfill that, but don't go beyond, because it goes out of balance.
The aspect of where to invest one's energy is ultimately investing in oneself is actually quite a deep subject which most individuals don't grasp the complexity of. And I would like us to talk more about the nuances that this entails. If I choose to perform a certain action that is against my conscience, does this imply that this is a withdrawal and not an investment?
Oh yeah. You put yourself into debt. You disempower yourself. Doesn't make any sense. If you go against your conscience, you have to think deeply. Why? Is it because you're afraid? Is it because the price is too high? Is it because somebody would have a severe reaction and you don't want to deal with that severe reaction? Because it is true that if you go according to your conscience, it will cost you. Because the conventional moral system is set up for people to go against their conscience. It's set up to disempower people. Because if it weren't, there would be no need for external moral authorities. And then they would be redundant. people need a job. You know. Take parents. Very few parents really know well how to raise a child. Some do. You have to give structure, you have to give love, and as the child shifts from one level of development to another, you have to be with that child, accompany that child, so that that child becomes adult when it's time. Some parents disempower their children, some parents alienate their children, some parents prevent their children from developing. There's all sorts of strange behaviors that go on because people are very ignorant. You know, in a way, a spiritual education corresponds in a way to a social education.
In what way?
Well, because it teaches you good ways to interact with one another, which is what social interaction is. It also looks at duty, your duty as a mother, your duty as a father, your duty as a sister, your duty as a daughter, your duty as a son, a first son, second son, third son. You know, there are all sorts of differences in the duties. And if you understand what your duty is, what your rights are, what your privileges are, you can dance because you know the steps. But when you're just winging it, like most people are, they very often do it wrong and get in trouble.
I'm wondering as to how soul consciousness fits into this picture of where to invest one's energy. And I'm also wondering, it's not just the investment of energy, but how do I do it?
Soul consciousness makes you aware of being a performer, an actor. There's a game going on, you have a role, maybe you have multiple roles. Circumstance by circumstance, situation by situation, you need to clarify for yourself, okay, what role am I playing here? What is required in this role? What are the circumstances? And you evaluate it and you just go into it, do it, and when it's done, withdraw. This is one of the good powers of yoga, power to withdraw. And come back to your baseline, your ground of being, which is, I am a soul at peace. And a very useful practice to have is to let go of whatever has just happened. Just let it go into the past. Come into your neutral position of, I am a pure, peaceful, powerful, loveful, blissful being of light. Hold that for a while, little while. And then, okay, next, what's the next performance? So you're doing something, looking at how that was, coming out again, doing the next thing. So you're really functioning actually like a professional actor, and then what you do will be well performed, and that's good karma.
I'm glad you mentioned the past, because it is common knowledge that most people spend the vast majority of their time in their minds living either in the past or in imagined future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is common knowledge. So this is a very difficult habit to break, even for those who are spiritually minded. We keep going back in the mind. I sometimes wonder whether we're trying to do that to fix things or fix ourselves or what, but we keep doing that. How does one realize that this is a very dangerous way to invest one's energy?
I think it's very important to really get clear that the only time you have any jurisdiction over anything is the present moment. And every present moment is a seed that you're planting whose fruit you will reap in the future. And also the circumstances of the present are the fruits of the seeds you planted in the past. Once you planted a seed, you can't go and unplant it. The clock doesn't go backwards. People go backwards in time. They dwell on, they remember. And the faculty of memory is a very sweet one, a very beautiful one to to recall things, to even remember powerful spiritual experiences and use that in your current spiritual practice. That's also a good thing. But to dwell on the past in a way that, oh, if only this, if only that, oh, I've lost this, if only I could have it back, or this one has died, I want them back. This is negative because you can't. So what we are taught in spiritual practice is second by second, let it go, because it's not coming back. And when you're living in the past, you're missing the present. So your seeds of the present are seeds of being in the past. And so you're not paying proper attention to what seeds you're sowing, so you're not preparing a good harvest for the future. And people just need to take responsibility for that. So the more people know about these things, the better off they are.
When one embarks on a spiritual journey, there are times when one receives feedback, good or otherwise, from the people around you. And one faces a situation from time to time where you decide to invest your energy here and with this person, and then somebody comes into your life who you care about, who says, no, how about investing your energy here or here? How does one know whether your investment is the sound one or the suggestion is?
You have to calculate. There's always a risk, but if you do what somebody else wants you to do in opposition to what you yourself want to do, then it means you're under their influence. And you're under their influence, that means that you're not exempt from the karmic consequences of doing that, and later you will regret, because you're not in your freedom. So you don't want to be under somebody's influence. Try to bring yourself under the influence of God, because the influence of God is very positive. But the influence of people is that they want you to do things because it's to their advantage, not necessarily to your advantage.
Are you saying that somebody who leads a spiritual life keeps their own counsel at all times?
I think that in many ways, ultimately, you're on your own. But if you have a good circle of friends and you consult with another, that's not called coming under their influence. You listen, you decide, and you act on your own.
Okay, a good note on which to end today's discussion.
Okay.
So there you go, the question of where to invest your energy. Sister Denise has taken us through a list of where to invest one's energy and in whom to invest one's energy, but I really like the aspect that she had taken up at the beginning of today's discussion, that ultimately you're investing in yourself. A very powerful message, and I hope this has been of some interest and relevance to you in your personal life. Take care, and we hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.